just a second here, as we're a little bit delayed and I'm a little bit lost. But welcome to this session, Exponential Race to the Top session number 2 on driving the energy and materials transformation. Let me ask our technical friends here over there at the table for just a second to give me my card so I can take a sneak peek at what I'm supposed to be saying as we ran a little bit of overtime. Thank you so much. So just a reminder here that when COP27, the last UN climate change conference, when that ended, there was this big decision, let's get out of fossil fuels, let's triple renewable energies. And that was the key agreement of COP27. Here at Bonn, of course, countries have again reiterated that. We really this. But countries are not the only players in this, of course. Companies play a key role in making this transformation happen and in driving the energy and material transformation through the value chain, because it's in the value chain where, for most companies, most of the emissions are. And no company, of course, no country either, can achieve the global goal of net zero on their own and for themselves. So welcome to this exponential race to the top session, Sriram Rajagopal of Inter IKEA Group. We have Jodie Zhou of Zhishan Hardware. Thank you very much for joining us from China. And we have Niklas Kilberg of Volvo Cars also joining us from Sweden on Zoom. And let me just check whether Niklas is here. He'll be joining us shortly. And my first question goes to Sri. You at IKEA, you have a target of 100% renewable electricity in the supply chain by the next fiscal year, 2025. How will you achieve that?
Thank you so much for inviting us to this very important discussion. IKEA is a global home furnishings company, for those who don't know us. We are committed to the science of 1.5 degrees Celsius. We will be halving emissions across our value chain by FY30 compared to our baseline year FY16 and getting to net zero latest by FY50. 100% renewable energy, 100% renewable electricity is a key enabler to make this commitment happen. Let's zoom into electricity as such. For our scope 1 and 2 operations, we are already at 100% renewable electricity. For scope 3, as of FY23, we were at 71% renewable electricity. So there is a job to do from getting from 71 to 100. We look at renewable electricity in a staircase approach. So first priority, or if I may, top of the staircase is generation of renewable electricity on site. We encourage our supply chain partners to invest in on-site assets. It could be PV panels, wind turbines, CHPs, to generate as much electricity on site as possible. For suppliers who have a problem with financing, we come in with a €100 million loan program where we help accelerate on-site investments. Middle of the staircase, if I may, is power purchase agreements. Not all the electricity can be generated on site. It's only, we have seen typically 15% is generated on site. For the remaining 85%, we need to look at off-site options. So PPAs is one of them where we enter into long-term agreements, our suppliers and the vendors as such. It could be a solar park, wind providers as such. And this also brings in additional renewable capacity into the market. And bottom of the staircase is energy attribute certificates. So we put in place a renewable electricity program in June 2021, which has now expanded to 13 countries, constituting 90% of our electricity consumption. And in these 13 countries, we want to get to 100% renewable electricity by FY25.
And China is one of these countries.
Indeed. In China, we actually went in from 29% 2 years ago to 87% renewable electricity in FY23.
And it's great then that Jodie is joining us here from one of your suppliers, Zhishan. Now, Zhishan produces carbon steel products and like these white wire type baskets that many of us may know from our living rooms, and also these white wire drawers that go into closets. But coating these wires with white color, that requires heat. and this production energy usually comes from fossil gas. But Zhishan has actually started ditching this gas and electrify the heating process. Jodie, can you explain how you've been doing that?
In today's world, industry often use fossil fuels like natural gas, which contributes significant to climate change. As an IKEA supplier, Zhishan primarily use natural gas for our powder coating process, making up about 50% of our energy use. To take on more social and environmental responsibility, we are committed to using 100% renewable energy by 2030. To achieve this, we started looking for alternatives to natural gas. One promising option is using electricity from solar panel. We discovered that electricity could replace fossil fuel in our production process through infrared heating. Infrared heating works by converting electricity into infrared light, which directly heat the product. These methods can reduce heat loss and is more efficient. We test this process in two phases. First for drying, then for curing. It took over 6 months to perfect the drying phase, where we made several adjustments and gained valuable insights. This experience helped us smoothly transition to the curing phase. The key to our success was segment temperature control. We divided the production line into sections, adjusting the temperature in each part based on the product's needs. This ensures that every section can reach the necessary temperature efficiently. By embracing this change, we are on track to meet our goal of using 100% renewable energy by 2030, taking a significant step toward a more sustainable future. Thanks. Thanks.
And thank you for sharing that, Jodie. But surely there have been well, both opportunities, of course, in this, but also some challenges. Can you tell us what those were?
Yes, the main challenge we encountered during the exploration process is first, in the powder curing process, when using infrared heating on workpiece, hidden surfaces do not reach the same temperature as those that are exposed, and the thick materials can't achieve same temperature as thinner one. Second, infrared heating electricity costs much higher than natural gas. After more than half a year of experiments and multiple adjustments, firstly, we divide the production line into different zones for temperature control, according to the heating condition of different surface of the workpiece. We adjust the temperature in the corresponding zones so that each product surface can meet the request temperature. Secondly, infrared heating trials have gradually expanded from partial to 100% coverage. We utilize infrared heating for production when the electricity price is low, resulting in energy cost saving. We realize that the challenges and opportunities go hand in hand. Thanks to the unremitting efforts, we are able to seize more opportunities. At present, the temperature setting of the infrared drying process is 195 Celsius degree and the curing process is 185 to 195 Celsius degree. According to the electricity consumption of a powder coating line, natural gas saves about 49% and the carbon dioxide emissions save about 311 tons a year, with a return on investment of 10 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Jodie. Opportunities and challenges go hand in hand. That's probably a theme that we'll come back to in the session and in all of our sessions probably throughout the day. Niklas, at Volvo Cars, you want to have a fully electric fleet by 2030. You want to reduce emissions per car by 75% by 2030. So what transformations in the value chain are required for you to meet this target?
Well, I would say that it's almost all in the value chain because once you take away the tailpipe emissions, it's all about producing the car and where do the materials in the car come from and how are they produced. And actually, our factories don't stand for a huge percentage of this. So it's really all in the supply chain. And that's why we work really hard with our suppliers in order to achieve this, just like Jodie has explained now. These are the kind of innovative ideas that we need, really. So what we do is we, of course, we need to tackle the big CO2 emitters, and those are the battery, the steel, the aluminium, and the plastics. That's where we have our big emitters.
What competitive advantage do you see for your company to be driving this transformation?
Well, our customers and our customer base and the ones that are attracted to us want these kind of products. They see premium product not only in the materials that they can have and the quality of the product, but also knowing that it is produced sustainably.
Sri, you're putting money and effort, as you mentioned earlier, into a program to support suppliers to switch to a renewable electricity. You also invest in materials that are not fossil-based, for instance, like bio-based glue that glues together all these wooden boards that we all know. What allows you to be confident that these investments will pay off?
I think to start with, we see this as clearly a part of our business strategy. It's a competitive advantage if we are early movers in this space. It also helps in building business resilience. We are a brand which has been around for 80 years, and we need to do everything to secure the existence for another 80 years and much more. And this is a necessity. It's not only something which is a good to do, it's a necessity for businesses to transform. So that's, for us, the starting point. And then for us, we've sort of, through the innovative spirit and of our co-workers around the world, across the value chain, we've seen a lot of innovative ideas in terms of how we can address costs. For example, electricity, which I spoke earlier about, bundling electricity across all suppliers to lower costs. That's one way of how you could look at mitigating cost in the short run, but also complementing that with energy efficiency to also save money, which can be reinvested into renewable energy. And also on materials, to question status quo. Why do we need to use this material? Can we use less of this material without compromising on every quality, safety, everything else being same? Can we reimagine the amount of material that goes in? And also taking a longer term view. In some materials like green steel or bio-based glue, it follows a total lifetime cost. It's more expensive in the initial stages, but then when we ramp up, we also see there's a potential for it to go down over a period of time. So we need to very much tackle this on a portfolio level. Some here and now savings, some where we need to take a longer term approach. But it's absolute necessity for business durability, business resilience, and a competitive advantage. How we see this.
Thanks for
Yeah.
highlighting that. Oh, Niklas, you want to come in? Go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to add, I completely agree. I'd just like to add that that there are two other points. One is actually access to capital. And if you do have a sustainability program that you report on and you're open with this, you are able to get cheaper loans in that sense. And the other aspect is in our workforce, and in what we can see is that almost all, I would say all the new recruits, the young new recruits that we get in, all say they're attracted to our company due to our sustainability ambitions.
Thank you for that important point in days where the workforce is indeed contested among companies. But I'd like to get to the perspective of a supplier here, Jodie at Zhishan. The return on investment for this infrared heating system that you talked about, that is 10 years. So 10 years for this heating system for coating the carbon steel products with infrared heating. That's a pretty long time. It seems quite scary, but what would need to happen for your company to have that return on investment earlier?
Yes. The current return on investment data is derived from the result of mass production over the past 10 months. It is possible that we could enhance saving through efficiency improvement or reform after 1 or 2 years of production. Secondly, we can utilize energy storage, taking advantage of the low electricity cost at night to store electricity at night and release it for infrared heating during the day shift. In addition, the remaining photovoltaic electricity can also be stored for infrared heating. And thirdly, the current cost of natural gas is over 4 RMB per cubic meter in China. What will be the future price we cannot predict. There are too many possibilities for the next 10 years. With technology evolving rapidly, we might be able to shorten the returns on investment through technological upgrade or renovation in 3 or 5 years. Therefore, as long as we take the first step, there will be endless possibilities ahead. Thank you.
And I hear a call to action almost in there, and I'll ask you about that in just a minute. But I would like to ask your reflections here, both Sriram and Niklas, on. And I will grant you that I've not prepared either of you, but on a scale of 0 to 10, how big is that level of trust, that leap of faith that you might be taking? Can you give that a number?
I think I would say we are at 6, and we would need to. There is a lot that we need to do, and our co-workers are working so hard day in, day out to get there. But we also need to work together as different stakeholders in the society to make this happen.
So a little bit of trust is needed, but the opportunities there are huge, I hear, and are really from all parts there of the supply chain. Jodie, what is your call to action to other companies and to investors that'll make it easier for you really in your transformation?
We think the success of infrared heating technology is an important breakthrough in the sustainable development journey of our factory. Replacing natural gas with renewable electricity will be one of the ways to mitigate climate change. And it also makes the manufacturing industry more resilient when facing energy shortage. We strongly encourage different industries to join the infrared exploration journey and the continual push toward electrification. Thank you.
Thank you, Jodie. Sri, who should do what to make it easier for IKEA to drive this transformation of energy and materials even faster?
I think, as I said, we need different stakeholders in society to act on. From a government perspective, we would really benefit from more ambitious national determined contributions, NDCs 3.0. We need to clearly see a phase out of fossil fuels. We need to see removal of subsidies. We need to see policies and legislations in line with the science of 1.5 across the world. We need this, you mentioned about 3x renewable energy increase, 2x energy efficiency that needs to flow in across all the countries. And then also on circular economy, it's really, really important to have investments and recycling infrastructure to close the loop, because that will enable us to meet our material emission reduction goals. But we can't outsource everything to governments, so private sector also has a role to play, in terms of clear commitments, clear targets, science-based targets at that, clear climate roadmaps, transition plans to instill this faith in governments as well that we are ready to walk the talk. And then governments, and we need to tango here, both private sector and governments working together to make the net zero society happen.
Niklas, what would you add to that?
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, we as companies, we need to set ambitious targets. We need to show that we're serious about them. They're not just very far in the future and someone else will take care of it later, but that we're actually taking action now. And that way we show that there is a market. We show the suppliers there's a market for this, and they need that in order to invest in it. So that's needed. And I would like to say that, again, what you mentioned there, Sriram, of the NDCs, everything comes down to energy. Whatever you're doing, whatever we're doing or producing, or what our suppliers are producing, if you're doing it also for recycling, for the circular economy, whatever you do, you need energy. So that has to be solved. We need to have fossil-free energy, and governments need to shape up on the NDCs.
And
That's really what it comes down to.
let's stay on these for a second. And of course, we've referred to them repeatedly now, the NDCs, the nationally determined contributions, as they're called under the Paris Agreement, the national climate action plans. So the climate action plans that are sort of a little bit in parallel to what companies are doing in their transition plans, but on a national level. And you said they need to set the direction. Can you spell out a little bit more why it is so crucial for companies that countries set this policy clarity through these documents?
I think it's a very pivotal moment in the history, like in February 2025, when countries lock in their plans, they are locked for the next 5 years. And
2030, right?
till
When we want to
2030.
have halved.
Exactly. And we need maximum action and exponential action to happen during these 5 years. And spelling it out clearly in the national climate action plans, it gives faith to private sector as well to engage and to invest long term as well. When we see that government is ready to act, it's a vicious, it's the circle, reinforcing circle,
Virtuous one.
virtuous cycle.
Not vicious.
No, it's a virtuous cycle where government actions can spur more corporate action, which in a sense will feed into country targets as such. So it's super important that we pin this. NDCs 3.2 are super ambitious. We need to really raise the bar.
And Niklas, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the energy companies are, for the most part, often state-owned. So there they have the NDCs have a massive influence on that. But also, even so, just like you said, Sriram, we need to stick to the climate targets. We need companies and investors are very risk averse, and they want that stability, and they want to know what might happen in the future and not have changes all the time.
Thank you so much for that reflection. Like just one last call here, since we're talking about the value chain, given this is an external platform, so you might be a little bit more cautious, but what are the messages that you're giving to both your suppliers on what message are you giving to them to help you drive the energy and materials transformation? What's that message that going through the value chain across the world?
I think it's that of partnership, as in it's not enough that we delegate the responsibility throughout the supply chain. As a brand, we need to sort of step in and support suppliers in the journey through the size of our brand, because and then whether it is through financing mechanisms, whether it is through policy actions. The reason why we are at Bonn is also to mobilize the voice, collective voice, which will also end up supporting, hopefully, a lot of suppliers around the world and doing this partnership. So we do our part, and suppliers are also doing their part, being more ambitious and building this resilient business for the future, a collective IKEA business for the future.
And of course, we'll talk tomorrow. We'll talk a little bit more in more detail about the financing program and about how you, as a big company, are supporting your suppliers financially to make that shift. Niklas, what's your call to action to your suppliers, but also to your customers?
Yeah, I mean, for the suppliers, it's about, you mentioned it again, it's the partnership, but it's also about showing that it is actually a competitive advantage. If they do this, we will certainly be a big customer of theirs, and there will be others that want to be as well. So it's to show that they come to gain by doing this. It's not just an added cost.
Thank you so much, Niklas Kilberg of Volvo Cars. Thank you, Sriram Rajagopal, Inter IKEA Group. Thank you so much for joining from China, Jodie Zhou of Zhishan Hardware. I hope I got that right this time around. And that was it. We're wrapping up this session of the Exponential Race to the Top. Do stay tuned as we go into our next session on cities and regions and countries. Again, this word of the NDC, so the acronym of the NDCs, the nationally determined contributions, will be coming up quite a lot. Stay tuned for that, and see you on the other end.